Now, let's chat to my next guest, who has just had an extraordinary career working with Mike the Mechanic's Ace and Squeeze. He's the man with the golden voice, legendary singer Paul Carrack. He's got a new album out and a tour of the UK as well planned for this year. Hello, Paul.
Carla, how are you?
Not too bad, thank you. I thought you'd appreciate
Good.
having your career described as extraordinary because I know you-
Well,
you're not
yeah,
humble in
yeah,
the
fair enough.
slightest. Yeah, you're normally quite shy of sort of praise and compliments, I find, Paul.
Well, I don't mind a little bit of praise every now and again, but as long as it's not followed by a sucker punch, that's what I'm always wary.
No, it's not. It's not. We've got lots to talk about the album and tour, but I believe you're just back from
Mm.
Germany. Is that correct?
I did a few shows over there just before Christmas with a jazz orchestra called the SWR Big Band. And I met these guys about 10 years ago, and they invited me in to make a sort of Christmas album in the sort of tried and tested swing sort of style. And ever since then, I've done bits and pieces with them, usually at Christmas time. Um, Done a couple of recording projects with them in the past, and but it's always been in the sort of swing sort of style. But we decided to get together, choose some repertoire that was a little bit more um, in my neck of the woods, like a bit more sort of soul-y and ballady and R and rhythm and blues. And we've made an album together called "Don't Wait Too Long."
Yes.
And I think, yeah,
Well, we'll talk about that because it's
great,
it's a
great.
brilliant album featuring SWR Band. Celebrates sort of 5 decades, really, doesn't it, in the industry and of music. And you've talked about
Yeah,
50s music as well, having a profound impact on you personally and professionally, Paul.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've been influenced by all kinds of things, but going back to that era, I think it was quite a golden era. But I think the main reason for choosing songs from then was because, as I said, normally speaking, this is a jazz orchestra. They're fantastic. They've just been nominated for Grammys for an album they just made about Charlie Parker's music, jazz. But they're also open to suggestion. And as I said, I reined them in a little bit for this and made it a little bit more from an area that I was more familiar with and more comfortable with. And so we include in songs by people like Ray Charles and Etta James, Bobby Bland, and tried to get a sort of a vintage kind of feel to the record. So it's a little bit of a side project from my normal sort of mode of the some of the things you just mentioned, like the How Long and Living Years, Over My Shoulder, that kind of things. It's very different to that sort of thing, but I do like a challenge, and I do like to do different things all the time. Keeps me on my toes, and we've had a pretty good response to it so far. So I hope you like it.
Yeah, well, I imagine you'd had, and you meant, I think, BB King as well. You get that's featured on the
Well, yeah,
album, and you did you work with
well,
him, Paul?
yes, I did have the honor of working with him, not to a great extent, but I made I played organ on an album he made in London called Deuces Wild. BB King, a legendary um, blues guitar player and singer. I had that honor of working with him, and not I was really there to play organ on his album, but he coaxed me into singing a couple of tracks on it. But so that was really an honor to play with such a legend. He was fantastic, and we've done one song on this album. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. So it's a song called "Don't." Sorry, what is it called? "Crying Won't Help You." That's what it's called. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
And sorry. After you.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that song. I think you were going to say "Don't Wait Too Long," which is actually the song we're going to play, Paul. So while we'll
Oh,
play
great.
this, we'll listen to this. While we do that, you go and get a glass of water and clear your
Good
throat
idea. Great
while we have
idea.
a listen to the title track from the new album. More from Paul Carrack coming up after this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. You can cry a million tears. You can wait a million years. If you think that time will change your ways, don't wait too long. When your morning turns to night, who'll be loving you by candlelight? If you think time will change your ways, don't wait too long. Maybe I've got a lot to learn. Time can't slip away. Sometimes you've gotta lose it all before you find your way. Take a chance, play your part, make romance, it might break your heart. But if you think that time will change your ways, don't wait too long. It may rain, it may shine, love will age like a fine red wine. But if you think time will change your ways, don't wait too long. Maybe you and I've got a lot to learn. Why waste another day? Maybe you've got to lose it all before you find your way. Take a chance, play your part, make romance, it might break your heart. But if you think that time will change your way, don't wait too long. Don't wait too long. Don't wait too long. Time's a ticking.
Paul Carrack, Don't Wait Too Long, title track from his latest album. And Paul is with us today. Paul, originally by, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, Madeleine Peru.
There, close enough. Madeleine Peru. Yeah, that's how I would say it. Yeah, I don't know too much. I don't know too much about her. I like what I've heard, and I'm very familiar with that particular song. So she's great, actually. She sounds very much like. I'm trying to think of the. Anyway, she sounds great.
She does, as do you. Your voice suits that. And you're talking about music sort of from the 50s. Is that what you grew up listening to? Because I mean, you're going back to that now and enjoying it. How did you sort of get into the songs the other songs that we know you for and the bands that we know you performed with?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, that song that we just played right there isn't from that era.
No, I did see actually. It was 2004.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fairly modern song. But yeah, back in the day, I just used to like anything I could hear. I mean, you weren't faced with wall to wall pop music when I was a kid. When I was growing up, what you could hear in the. So I was just open to anything, any kind of music. I always have been, and I think probably that's why I find it maybe easy to adapt and to different styles. I don't know, but what really got me enthused was obviously the like a lot of kids of my age at that time were the Beatles and the whole Mersey beat thing, and my elder brother, 4 years older than me, John, he was a fan of blues and particularly Ray Charles. So there was always a lot of Ray Charles knocking about, and to be honest, he still remains one of my really all time favorites. Because he had everything, but he was a schooled musician. He was a jazz musician, but he could sing a ballad like Old Man River or Lucky Old Son and really, move you, and get the tingles down the spine. So, as I say, in a in a long way around, I love all kinds of music, and there's so much. It's the full on sort of Forrest Gump. It's like a box of chocolates. There's so much there, and as I get older, I just want to do as much as I can. Still,
Yeah, well, as you do, busy touring as well, the UK later in the year. And you mentioned sort of being versatile and working with lots of different musicians and different music styles. I've got to ask you a question. You might be able to help us with something, Paul. We have
Okay, I'll try.
we've been tasked at BBC Radio Lincolnshire with getting an invitation to Sir Elton John to try and get him back to Boston in Lincolnshire, where he performed 50 years ago this year at the Gliderdome, which is a music venue there.
Yeah.
Now, I did a little bit of research, and I think you've worked a fair few times with Sir Elton, Paul.
Not an awful lot. I've played on a few tracks.
Don't play
I played
it
on
down.
a few tracks. I have played on a few tracks. In fact, one of them, Something in the Way You Look Tonight, I played organ on that, and that was the B-side of Candle in the Wind, funnily enough, which
Yeah.
at one point I think was the biggest selling record of all time. But that's a bit of a tenuous link. I haven't seen him for a good while. He hasn't invited me round lately for a cup of tea or anything like that.
Oh.
But I remember playing at the Boston Gliderdome, by the way.
Did you?
Oh
When was
yeah.
that?
Was it the Gliderdome? What was it called? It was the Boston Gliderdome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, all I remember is there used to be a fella who came every week, and he was like in the tails, in the top and tails, in a tuxedo, dicky bow, tail jacket, and he used to stand at the front conducting. Have you not heard about that fella?
I
a legend.
haven't heard. Somebody might.
He was
We'll
a
have to ask.
legend.
Wow. So when did you perform there then, Paul?
Well, that would have been, when I was a very young child. It would have been in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember playing there one night, and also on the bill was the Rockin' Vickers. Somebody in the Rockin' Vickers, and that was Lemmy out of Motorhead.
Oh my
He was in that
goodness.
band.
That's...
Oh yeah, mate.
Well, look, if we can't get Sir Elton John back to Boston, will you
Yeah.
come, Paul? Will you do a small show for us at the Boston's Gliderdome?
I'd love to.
Ah,
I'd love to.
if we could
Bring back
the,
some memories.
and bring the band as well.
Yeah. Well, probably some of them. Mind you, they're mostly younger than me, but they would.
Well, they might not, but we could have the band on. I mean, the SWR band. Not, I know what you mean. Not the ones that were originally
Oh, I
performing
see
with
what
you.
you
Yeah, the big band. We could have a bit of swing.
So tell me, is it still going?
Yeah, it still goes. It has
goodness.
shows still there. We performed our Christmas concert there as well, just some weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still there.
Wow.
Still goes. So it's open. The doors are open for you, Paul. If we can arrange that, that would be amazing.
Okay. We'll see what we can. I might have some dates in 2024 still available.
Okay, all right. Okay, look, we will sort this out. Apparently, I've got a colleague, Scott Dalton, who knows the man who is conducting. He knows about this man.
No.
He's joining us now. Hello, Scott's with us. He's from
Really?
Boston. We've got Paul on, Scott.
Right.
So this is musical royalty. Mind your P's and Q's.
Hello, Paul.
Tell us about this man conducting
Hello.
then.
This is Stan, I think he's, I'm going to get correct here, but it's legend in Boston, Stan the conductor man. And he used to stand there at the front. Does that sound
There
like...
you go.
There you go, Stan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just was worried that it was all a figment of my imagination.
No.
But obviously, not. No, good.
He's
Yeah, he
legendary.
used to stand there, and all these rock and roll bands would be playing, and he'd be standing at the front there, as I say, with these, what they call them jackets with the tails, and when he's baton, conducting away.
I'm pretty sure he was called Stan.
So he was protected. I mean, there was nobody watching him sort of professionally. He was just doing it.
No. It was all going on in his head, I guess. But
That's amazing. So, did you
Wow.
ever see him, Scott?
No, I'm not that old. Come on. I'm just going on what people...
What are you saying about Paul?
exactly,
I
it's
do
just going on what
apologise,
old people
Paul.
like me.
I do apologise.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have a word with the glider is still going, Paul. So if you want to go back, I bet they would have you with open arms because it's an amazing venue.
I'm going to look him up on the internet. I'll look him up on the internet. That's what young people do. It'll be in there somewhere.
It will. Oh, that's amazing. Well, there we go. We found out a bit more about the man who was conducting. Scott, Paul doesn't know Elton very well
No,
now.
I heard,
He
but
has worked with
that's
him in the
all right.
past. But if we can get Paul back
If you wanna-
instead.
yeah, well, I'll speak to the management of the glider. They'd love to have you back, I bet, Paul, because there's not many venues, if any, like that left. I don't think so.
Yeah, good.
Good
Well,
stuff.
I can just about recall it, but there we go. Remember to stand. That's the main thing.
It is, but look, I mean, Paul Carrack arguably better than Sir Elton John anyway, so I think we'll do well to get you in. Scott, thank you very much for clearing that up. Paul, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you back and listening to your new music as well from the album. I can see you've got dates in the UK later in the year, but maybe 2024, Boston's Gliderdome. That's when we'll see you next.
There you go.
In Lincolnshire.
Okay.
Paul, take care. Thank
I'll
you.
see if Stan's available. Ta-ra.
Bye-bye, Paul Carrack, legendary singer. Well, I tell you what, that interview took a turn. I thought we'll ask about Elton John, and then Paul remembered performing himself at Boston's Gliderdome, and Stan, the conductor man, we found out a bit about him as well. So it doesn't seem Paul's going to help us with the Sir Elton John or our quest to get him back, but instead we could get Paul at the Gliderdome in 2024. I'd love that. Brilliant to hear from him. His new album is out on the 20th of January, so not long to wait for it. Don't wait too long. We heard the title track for it as well. And that UK tour I mentioned is later in the year. It kicks off in Liverpool at the Philharmonic Hall on the 22nd of September. And there's dates there, including York Barbican in October and Sheffield City Hall as well.